welcome to my channel. My name is Angelita and today I'm going to be talking about some books that I love but wouldn't recommend. So this is a video that I've seen floating around on BookTube for a little while now and I wanted to join in. So I have, I think, 7 or 8 books to talk about today that are books that I love and have given 5 stars, but aren't ones that I would necessarily recommend to most people. So yeah, let's just get into it. So starting off is a romance, and that is Lizzie Blake's Best Mistake by Mazey Eddings, and this is one of my favorite books by this author. I have given every book by this author 5 stars, but this one just really surprised me, and the reason I wouldn't necessarily recommend it is because it does have the surprise pregnancy trope in it, and I know that is a trope that the majority of people, I feel like, that I see talking about tropes that they hate, it's always surprise pregnancy, so I do understand that. However, I feel like the way it was done in this book was just really good, and I don't necessarily like that trope myself. However, I just feel like it was so well done in this book. This book is so funny, so charming. I love the 2 main characters, and just seeing them have to figure life out together was just really cute. So yeah, this one is definitely a favorite of mine, but there are other books by this author that I would be more willing to recommend to people over this one, even though this one is probably my all-time favorite. The next book is a nonfiction book, and that is Bee People and the Bugs They Love, and this one is a nonfiction book following the author's journey to become a beekeeper, and it's just filled with like beekeeping and bee facts, and I really love bees. I found this book so fun and enjoyable and interesting. I feel like I learned so many different facts that I will probably never use in my life, but yeah, this is a book that I would not know how to recommend to people. I feel like this is a very specific book for a very specific audience, and so people who ask me for nonfiction recs, this isn't one that I would necessarily lean towards because you really have to be interested in the subject matter to actually enjoy the book. So this is one that I personally love, but again, would not necessarily recommend. So yeah, this one is one that really surprised me. I don't even know where I found the recommendation for this book from, but it intrigued me enough that I picked it up, and it is one of my all-time favorite nonfiction books. So yeah, that is why this one is on the list. The next book I have is The Vegetarian, and this one is a weird little short book that I feel like I have seen so many mixed opinions on, but it is an all-time favorite for me. But this one is following our main character who lives in South Korea, and she ends up becoming a vegetarian, and in South Korea it's very stigmatized to have a different diet, such as being a vegetarian. So the people in her life are not very supportive of her choice, and this book kind of reads like a fever dream. It is more like a literary horror type book, and it's just very weird, and the weirdness of it is why a lot of people dislike this book. And there's not really much of a plot to it, so that is also another reason why a lot of people don't like this book. So it is one that I would find very hard to recommend to people because you have to just be in it for the wild ride that it is. And yeah, I do think there are some important conversations around this story. I just think it has a very specific audience, but it is one that I really love. The next book is The Heart Principle by Helen Huang, and this is my all-time favorite in this series, which is everyone, I feel like, least favorite in the series, and that is mainly because this is a romance series, but this last book in the series, it focuses a lot less on the romance. It's not a big part of the story, and the synopsis of this book would really lead you to believe that the romance is a big focus. So I feel like people go in with the wrong expectations of this book. They see the cover, the title, all of that, and they get the wrong idea of what the story is, and that is completely fair. However, I really loved this story. It follows our main character who's struggling with burnout, a bad relationship. There's family problems that end up happening, and she tries to have a one-night stand with our male hero in this story, and it fails, and it's all about their relationship, and yeah, this book just has a lot going on, but the romance is definitely not a big part of the story. It's all about learning about yourself. It has a lot of family dynamics to it, and it was just a really sweet, really great story. It did make me cry, which is another reason why I love it, because I feel like it's very hard for books to make me cry, but yeah, this one was just a really great read and is one that I wish I could recommend, but I just know that there are other ones in the series that people prefer and would probably have a better time with, because a lot of people who I would recommend this book for would be romance readers, and the romance is definitely not a big part of this story, so you kind of have to go into it expecting more of a contemporary, just general fiction story that has a big focus on family relationships, but there is, of course, the main romantic relationship. It is smutty, so yeah, it's kind of a weird balance, but it really worked for me and I really loved it. The only book on this list that I do not own is Names for the Sea, and this is another nonfiction book, and this one is again one that I ended up reading quite a few years ago, and I'm not really sure where I heard about this book and what made me pick it up, but I did get it from my library and I fell in love with this book, and it is the main reason why I always wanted to go to Iceland. This book is following the author's journey on moving to Iceland from America. I believe it was America, but it's all about the different culture in Iceland, how there's just so many different things that's different in that country than in America, and it's all about the author learning how to live in a very cold climate, learn how things are different, and it's definitely one that I wouldn't know how to recommend, except if you are interested in travel and want to learn about Iceland, then I do think this one would be a good one, but there's not much more to it, and I feel like that's why this one is not talked about a whole lot as far as a memoir goes, but it really worked for me and I love it. So the next one that I want to talk about is actually a comic, and that is I Hate Fairyland. This is volume 1. It is the only volume in the series that I have read so far, or not volume, issue that I have read, but I fell in love with this first issue so much, and it is one I wouldn't recommend for a couple different reasons. One is that I don't really know anyone who reads comics, but two is just that this has a very specific humor to it that I don't think a lot of people would enjoy. It's a very simple, sort of dumb sort of humor, which really worked for me. I thought this was absolutely hilarious. I had so much fun. Yeah, this was just really great. It's all about our main character who wishes to go to Fairyland. She ends up going to Fairyland and she gets trapped there. And now she is an adult trying to figure her way out still. She's going on these adventures that are really wild, kind of dumb. She is not a good character. She is sort of a villain type of character, but it was just really funny, really fun, and I really enjoyed this, and I cannot wait to read the rest of the series because it will just be such a great time. The next book I have to talk about is My Flawless Life, and this one is a YA mystery thriller suspense sort of story, which is definitely not a genre that I pick up too much, which is why it's one I wouldn't necessarily recommend, just because it's not a genre that I read a ton in, just because it takes a lot for me to really enjoy a mystery, but this one really worked for me. This one came out a few years ago, but it was so good and it's definitely stuck with me, and it follows our main character who goes to an elite private school, and she's known for fixing things, but her dad is the senator, I believe, and he ends up getting arrested. Her social life kind of falls apart and she's trying to fix her own life, and she ends up getting a mysterious anonymous client who is sort of giving her clues as to how to fix her life. And yeah, it's a lot of twists and turns about what really happened, why her father got arrested, why she has this mysterious anonymous client, and yeah, there's a lot about this book about morals, which I think is really great for a teen audience, but it also has a lot to do with friendship, with family, and I don't know, there was just something about this book that really stuck with me. For people who are looking for like a straight up mystery, I feel like this might not necessarily be for them, just because the end mystery is sort of very realistic, I guess. This book was so good. It's definitely one that stuck with me and that I really love, and it is kind of sad that I don't see it talked about enough, but it is one that I don't necessarily know how to recommend. But those are all of the books that I had to talk about today, and if you've read any of these books or if you want to read any of these books, definitely let me know in the comments below. But thank you all so much for watching. I will see you on the next one. Bye!